Hey everyone, this is Bill Kenney, CEO and co-founder of Focus Lab, a global B2B branding agency. I'm back with another episode of the Debrief. In today's episode, I sit down with an old pal and three-time client at this point. His name is Gurdeep Dhillon. He is the CMO of Contentstack. We had the pleasure of working with Gurdeep when he was at Marketo. We then had the pleasure of working with him at Zora and now at Contentstack. What's great in this episode is I lead out these conversations always with, how did you find the right partner? Now, you would think, because of what I've just told you, he would give a very straightforward answer. He did a wonderful job at unpacking that and sharing how he was unbiased as much as he could be with 4 very specific criteria that he shares. We go further into the project. We talk about what was the most challenging, what it was like to try to bring C-suite in at the right stages and maybe when they are not needed, how it's challenging to make sure that everybody feels heard in a big rebrand like this. And then finally, we get to the ROI of this project that's only been live for 2 weeks. And we get to his final tip that he would share with any CMO who is about to enter a rebrand. A wonderful episode with a wonderful human being. Let's get into it. Back again, sir. Wow. So you and I have crossed paths now for, God, is it for years? Are we at a decade or so? Like, when were you at Marketo?
I think we're at 7-8 years. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Third rebrand.
That feels like a very long time ago. I mean, not for nothing. That was a real catalyst project for us in a lot of ways. Obviously a well-known name. It would have been at that point one of the biggest well-known projects that we went through, and really such great work, such great people, spawned a new process for us. And here we are, let's call it 8 years later, talking about another project. So welcome to the show. You've not been on this show, even though you and I have been connected and been friends now for a while. So we're going to talk about the Contentstack rebrand. Do you call it a rebrand? I call it a rebrand. Sometimes it's a refresh. What do you think?
No, I think this one's a rebrand for sure.
Yeah, it feels like a rebrand, right?
Yeah. I think it's big enough in scope that we did a refresh last year. It wasn't enough, and we knew we needed to go bigger.
Yeah, it's funny for me. I'm always, when people come into the projects, I understand why they can get caught up on this word. They're like, well, it's not a rebrand, it's a refresh. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, you call it whatever the hell you want to call it. We're going to help you make the thing better.
Yeah.
And if it makes you more comfortable to call it this, call it that. But we're going to move this thing forward to some degree, or to a large degree. But before we get into the meat of the project, all the people watching and listening that don't know who you are, you just want to tell them who you are and what the hell you're doing?
What the hell am I doing? Yeah, that's the daily question. I'm Gurdeep. I'm CMO at Contentstack. Been there about 1.5 years, having the time of my life. Great company, great team, an amazing product with incredible customers, which honestly is a marketer's dream. I came to Contentstack from Zora. Was there for almost 4 years. Prior to that was at Adobe. Got to Adobe through the Marketo acquisition. And then before Marketo, I was at SAP. So I've done the really big company thing, the mid-sized company, and now smaller with Contentstack, and just having a great time and a great run. Have pretty much always been in marketing, focused heavily on the demand gen side of the house. And now really enjoying dipping my toes into more of the brand and product marketing side. It's super fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's quite a journey. Yeah. You've been in some very notable places.
And then, on the personal side, based in the Bay Area, married with 3 teenage daughters. So send me your well wishes. Even the dog is a girl. So, surrounded by women.
Which is why you're such a wonderful human being. They have really shaped you to be such an
My
amazing
emotional
person.
IQ, Bill, is like off the charts. That's my story.
And then my poor wife is stuck with me and my son, who are boys all the way through. Great. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about the project. I kind of talked about very quickly. The goal of the show is really to uncover these projects in a way that a case study never could, to really bring light to the hard parts of a project. What are the things people don't think about before they get into them? So I'm going to kind of lead us through that chat. which
Mhm.
starts with, how does someone know, and use you as the example, how did you know that Contentstack needed to go on this rebrand journey? Like, what were the cues?
Yeah, I love that question because it validates the fact that we put in the work to do this. I would say three things. Number one, we knew we were at an inflection point as a company, but also as an industry. It's wild to just think how recent ChatGPT and the madness of AI is actually not more than like 2 years old. It's
I
just
know.
it's crazy. We've never seen this pace of change. And so we knew, because of our place in the MarTech landscape and because of where the market was going and where we knew our customers were going to need to go, there was this big inflection point. That was exacerbated by the fact that we acquired a company called Lytics a year ago, and that brought us into the data space. And so we were evolving as a company beyond, we used to say, just a CMS to truly a digital experience platform. And it was like, well, our identity is not that. So that feels like it needs to change. And then I think the last thing is just the competitive landscape from a brand point of view is very undifferentiated. A lot of red, a lot of just like similar looking stuff. And we thought there was an opportunity to separate ourselves from the pack. And that's why we said we need to do a rebrand, not a refresh like we did last year.
Got it. Got it. Not to put you on the spot, but when you come in as a CMO and you can see that, how was that received then? Right now, you have to kind of bring that to C-suite and everybody in and around you to say, hey, I think we need to do this. Is that often challenging? Was it challenging in this respect?
It is often challenging. However, it was not in this case because we were very well aligned as a leadership team on the vision of the company, where we wanted to go. And we knew, and this has been validated by customers, by partners, by prospects, and by analysts, that in order to make this leap, we did need to kind of leave the old identity behind, because otherwise we would be perceived as what we were when we started, 7, 8 years ago, and not what we aspire to be, which is the modern digital experience platform that takes out the legacy. So that was actually not hard in this case because we were 100% aligned. And that's surprising because we are founder led, right? Like Neha and Nishant are the founders of this company, and they have an emotional attachment to the brand.
Right.
But what I love about their leadership also is they knew that this was a prerequisite for us to make this big leap forward.
Yeah. Kudos to the both of them.
Yeah.
And I know that sets you up in your role really well. If somebody is, I guess, struggling to get C-suite to understand the value of maybe this type of a shift, what would you tell that person?
Everything starts with the why. Like if you can get people nodding their head on the why, like, why are you even doing this? Why are you even in the game? That unlocks, I think, the gap between your current state and where you need to get to. And that's a strategic conversation. A brand refresh is one way that can manifest in terms of a tactical, like the work that gets done to get you to the future state. I think it's a natural outcome of having those important conversations about where are we going and how does that compare to our current state. As a marketer, there's a perception that we just love doing brand refreshes.
There sure is one of those. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I do love it. But it's why we're doing it that really matters. And if you can articulate, this is true for anything, but if you can articulate that, you get people nodding their head. And then the execution of it is just logical. There's no emotion in it. It's like, yeah, we have to do this.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done. But
yeah. People skills, high people skills.
It's all about
you didn't
people.
Need them.
Yep.
Yeah. You didn't need to use all of your superpower that you've acquired now in that moment. Okay. So leadership is aligned. You probably even kind of came into a leadership that might have already thought and understood those things, and maybe you just poured gas on it. So then you have to go out and find the right partner. Now we've kind of prefaced this to suggest there could have been a bias, but let's try to remove bias out. How do you go find the right partner? Or maybe even the better question is like, what do people look for? What did you look for in trying to find the right partner for this?
Yeah. And Bill, I just want to preface, but like, I'm a huge believer in not prescriptively telling my team, what vendors to go with and who to partner with. So we basically did an RFP type engagement to say, who's the right partner for us to go through this effort? And I think there's 4 things we were really looking for. One was we knew we had done the refresh and we wanted this to be way more comprehensive. This was a true rebrand effort and it needed to be different in scope to what was done before to, just kind of put some makeup on it. And that was not what the company needed. So that was part one. We needed a partner that had experience handling the end-to-end project. This might sound cheesy, but a true partner, like a company that was going to treat us like their most important customer, that was going to put in the effort to understand us, make bold, provocative recommendations, but then listen to our feedback. Like that, the two-way partnership, really important. Alignment on vision. Like we knew the message we wanted to take to the market. We needed a partner that could understand and internalize that and then translate that into a brand identity that made sense. And then my team wanted me to call out that a big part of this is like the work doesn't end when you launch. The post launch transition is actually hard for the teams because these things tend to be phased out. And so we were looking for a partner that would give us, I would say, ongoing support and guidance in that post-launch transition period. And so those 4 things were like the crux of what we were looking for as we evaluated partners. And yes, 100%, I was biased towards Focus Lab, but I let the team go through the process to get to the answer themselves, and I knew where they were going to land. So it all worked out.
I know what you're implying there, sir. I can read between the lines. Kudos to you for letting it be as unbiased as possible, right? Letting the team also weigh in. I also know it's not easy to discern some of those things in, let's be real, like 2 or 3 calls, right? Yeah, you could discern if we as Focus Lab could stay on post project and do the work with you because we have that as a service offering. But you can't truly discern how we will be as a partner necessarily. You obviously knew, so you had experience to help with that. So I know, I understand the challenge of talking to 5 different companies and going like, oof, all right.
Well, that's where this conversation is brilliant on your part because, let's say I hadn't worked with you before, I would have wanted those references. I would have wanted to hear from others who'd gone through. Now, in this case, I was the reference. So I could reinforce that these things, that you guys just weren't giving lip service. Like this was actually going to be real. But, from a content marketing perspective, this is perfect because you've got the success story, you've got the advocacy that's happening. So, I think stuff like that is really important for agencies to do because otherwise people are trying to take your word for it. It's kind of like when you interview someone for a job.
That's it.
You're trying to find culture fit, you're trying to find all these things, but how do you really know?
Yeah.
From a couple conversations. It's hard.
Yep. It's really hard. Yes. Yeah. And that is why we record these videos, as well as giving back the knowledge that you're sharing. People can get an idea of the things that we did and why it worked and how somebody feels. Yeah. All right. So you land back on us. As you said, you knew it was going to happen. I appreciate the faith that you had in us, but I understand and also value everybody should be talking to multiple people, even just to create contrast, right? So they can understand how different organizations operate, et cetera. All right, so let's get into the project then. So we start the project. This is a lengthy project. It was a full rebrand. It was not something that was done in a month or 2. So we went through a lot together. Of all of that, what do you think the hardest aspect of the project was?
It's funny. You started out by saying, did I have, the C-suite on board? And I would say, well, the answer to that question was yes. I still think, as typically happens with these projects, the biggest challenge was on our side.
Sure.
It was internal alignment. It was change management of going from to and having a lot of cooks in the kitchen. When we say like full rebrand, that included our mission, our vision, our values. Like these are meaty topics that people across the organization have either an emotional attachment to or a vested interest in any changes that we make to them. And so I think bringing people along for the ride at the right times on the right areas of the scope of the project, which by the way, wasn't just a rebrand, it was also a re-platforming of our website on Contentstack, like re-implementing Contentstack in a modern, like we wanted to be the best version of our own product. And actually one of the main outcomes of the project for us was we wanted our new website to be a living, breathing demo of our product, basically. That's something we're super proud of. But like that internal alignment and change management was the hardest part. But on the flip side, what I just said, that we're so lucky. The product we sell, the product we deliver to our customers, the website is such a natural vehicle for us to tell our own story because you can actually feel what it's like to work with Contentstack. But we weren't doing that in a way that felt authentic and accurate in terms of where we were as a company with innovation. So we needed to fix that. And I would say probably the most rewarding part of this whole thing is that now I go to contentstack.com and I'm super proud of how we're representing ourselves, how we're representing our incredible technology, and our company. And this is just phase one. Like phase two is coming. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, good for you. Let's go back. I want to, you jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
So that alignment issue, and I'm going to break it down a little bit for the people that are not aware. So what we do on our side is we ship the work every single Friday, right? So we were together for, 16 weeks, more than that. Every single Friday, deliverable. Yeah. Some of these are big, meaty deliverables, 80-page PDF kind of Figma presentation files, big written documents with all the mission vision work you're talking about. Your team is reviewing that. You're trying to get all the people together to get their opinions. That's not the whole team though, right? So tell people like how small that team was and how did you organize that to be ready to get back to us?
Yeah. And I would say it evolved over time in a strategic way. But the worst outcome would have been if the project was slowed or bottlenecked by our own doing. We wanted to avoid that. And so having critical people in the process early to align on the brand vision and architecture or archetype was really important. And we were very intentional about the people that we picked. And, in this case, that did include our CEO. And that was intentional because my personal belief is that the executives shouldn't be too far in the weeds on this stuff, but we should be helping to drive the vision and the strategy. And so it was very important up front to have our creative leadership team, our content and product marketing leadership, and then myself and Neha, like part of that early ideation around what was this going to be. And then as we progressed through the process, when we would get those Friday deliverables, there were some instances where we needed to solicit feedback from other individuals. Right. But that didn't mean we were going to pull them into the full project. Now, the danger in that was two things. Number one, people were like, well, how come I'm not part of the whole thing?
Yeah.
And then number two was like, everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Bill. Like you probably see this all the time, but you do have to balance people are going to have to trust that you did this thoughtfully, comprehensively, and you had the right people involved, and that the output is going to be amazing. You have to balance that with the fact that there's people that have been with the company for a long time and feel like they could contribute to this thing and they understand the ethos of the company and all this stuff.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, and you'll be involved when we're ready for you to be involved. When I say internal alignment, like that is the hardest part. And because there's feelings involved and people are attached to this thing, and I love that because that means they care deeply about the brand and the company.
Yep.
But in order for the project to actually get to completion,
Yeah.
you can't open up the aperture too wide. So we were
Yeah.
very intentional. We started with like the core creative team, and I guess I would say the team that owns the story at
Mhm.
Contentstack, and that's like CEO, CMO, creative, brand, product marketing. Those folks are like core to owning the story, and
Yep.
then you can expand from there.
I love how you said it because I think it is the appropriate way to say it for both parties. Because yes, what you're saying is true, which is those people's opinions do matter, right? You've got people within the business, they understand kind of the soul of what the business has been, and that is actually helpful within these projects. So you called it a yes and I think that's actually spot on. Nobody
Mhm.
has said it that way. I think it's often seen as change management, which is like controlling madness, which controlling chaos, right? And that doesn't have the same empathetic note as
Yeah.
and yes, we do value your opinion. Yes, you can add value to this project, and we'll get it from you in these ways.
Yeah.
Both parties are trying to find the rhythm to work together on this project instead of, getting a bunch of people, let's call it more than 10 people a week in the same meeting. It starts to become unwieldy. I know that we try to direct all clients to be 5 people or less in these kind of weekly meetings. I just want to hit one more note.
Yeah.
Very tactically, though, we send work end of day Fridays, and then we're meant to meet with our clients, our project team, together on generally somewhere on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with now the truck shows up with the big deliverable. Here you are. We'll see you on
Yep.
Tuesday. And we need you to get your team together, get some version of, I hate this word, but consensus, and then
Yes.
get back to us ready to talk, not bring all of that jumble back to us, bring it back clearly baked. How do you manage that tight of a window? That's a Friday to a Tuesday. So that left you with Monday to do all this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was predictability in the cadence, like you just said, because you guys delivered on time. So once we got past like week 1, it was like, all right, this is how it's going to be. We basically got commitment from our more senior leaders, including myself, to invest the time unless they heard otherwise from the team that this was not a situation where their feedback was required, which is actually a really important point because there were some updates that were a little more tweaks and less like less big rocks. And so we didn't need Neha to look at it. We didn't even need me to look at it in some cases. My team did a really good job of managing that internally to make sure that over the weekend, if we had made a commitment to review and provide feedback, that was captured by Monday morning. If not, they were hounding us to say, hey, look,
Monday,
we need this because we're meeting on Tuesday. And because it was a smaller group, like people just knew it was coming. They had already blocked time in their calendar to get it done. And it went super smoothly. And now there were some cases where timing was crap because we had an event or something happening.
Sure.
And so there was a little more chasing involved. But, when you have alignment on the priority level of the project and, people take it seriously. I personally took it very seriously. And especially early on, because we needed to get to clarity on those big rock, brand identity stuff, including everybody goes to logo, but like, logo, a huge one, right? And that's one where we actually opened up the scope of people who could review to the broader executive team. Like, I came to that meeting with an output that we got from our normal process with, hey, this is what we're thinking in terms of logo direction and, archetype and all these things. And we had a cool 2-hour session on just getting their feedback. So then they felt like they were part of the process, but not having to be in the weekly stuff. And so now they see the final output and they think, oh, like I was part of that. I knew that was coming, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that was really cool. But yeah, I think the cadence worked really well. It would have not worked as well if we needed sign off by, 8 to 10 people. But
Yeah.
because we kept it to that 5, 6-ish, the team did a good job of capturing the feedback in one place, and then not just handing that to you guys, but
Yeah.
translating that into a cohesive Tuesday update of like, hey, this is what we collectively think. It wasn't like, oh, this is Neha's feedback, this is Gurdeep's feedback. It was,
Yes.
this is Contentstack's feedback.
Yep.
Let's go from there. So
yeah, we call that single voice feedback, and that's not a word that everybody kind of like immediately understands, maybe because they're not going through rebrands all the time, like we are on our side. But yeah, that single voice, right? Because if they come back and say these are the 5 different people's tracks of feedback, we're left trying to figure out who do we cater to. So yeah, with that single content stack feedback, it makes it easy for us to then show up into that meeting on Tuesday. You guys got your thoughts together. We already know what your thoughts are. Now we're starting to form our thoughts in return, and we can have a really productive weekly meeting, and we stay on that rhythm. All right. We talked a lot about process there. That being, if there is going to be a challenge, that is the challenge. I'm glad you called that out as what was the hardest, even though it was successful, right? Like that didn't mean that the process failed. It actually was there to support and make that hard thing less hard. Let's talk about the kind of the rewarding side. Was there a moment in there that felt really rewarding, emotionally exciting, et cetera?
Yeah, I would say, talking about the logo, you guys had a lot of conviction about one of the final recommendations that you made, and we disagreed.
Yeah.
And looking back, the back and forth and the seeking to understand where each other was coming from led to, I believe, something better than each of us in isolation were thinking was the way to go. And so I think it was super rewarding to have, because I remember when I said what we were looking for was a true partner. It came to life in that motion where you guys were so excited about this one application of how we could do this thing. And we were like we kind of like this approach. Ultimately, we landed on something that I think both parties agree is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And is differentiated and cool in this space. And I don't know that we would have gotten there if we hadn't had that partnership approach where you guys valued the client's feedback as much as even your team's feedback. And we never felt like less than, we never felt like you were judging us for having different opinions. That for me was super rewarding. And I know I could speak on behalf of the team. Like they appreciated, I guess, the vibe of how that went. So I would say that, where it was like, we had a great working relationship to get to the outcome that we all felt good about.
I couldn't be happier to hear that. I mean, this to be true now multiple times over, but we really care about the working relationship. We really care about our expertise, and you can bring both of those things together. They don't have to be at odds. It is not our job to say, you don't know what you're talking about, Contentstack team. This is what you should do. We're the experts. We have a saying inside the company now that's been around for years, which is like, good ideas come from anywhere and everywhere. It's not just us that can think creatively. And we certainly don't know your business and your customer, regardless of how much research we do, better than you. So all these things have to come to the center of the table. And you're right. I think that's another fantastic example of like, let's keep pushing and pulling each other. And as long as we understand that we're all out for the same thing, we'll never get mad at each other. Another thing we'll ever come across is ego or judgment. It'll just be, we're all fighting for the best. All right, cool. I love where it ended up. When that final form started to take shape, and then it started to inspire the rotation, the
adaptive nature.
Man, it was just kind of like, there's the unlock, right? Like it is there. Some projects don't necessarily get that level of an unlock. And that doesn't mean they're not successful either, but sometimes things just really line up in a way that you're like, it's like in the Matrix when you can finally see all the things. And it's like, this had a flavor of that in that moment. And I love that.
When I saw that for the first time, it was like, fuck yeah, let's go. This is it. This is the one.
Exactly right. Even I was jumping into some of those weekly deliverables and creating assets, because I started to get this the 3D kind of like, I now want this to be a giant stone monument. And like, what does it look like if it's inside an office space? So I was going inside a Midjourney and Firefly, and I rarely do that on
wait
projects.
to build that. I can't wait to build that.
Oh, good.
So good. Awesome.
Just so damn good.
Yeah.
So damn good. All right. So that's the in the project. So let's get now to the back end of this conversation, which is now it's been live for, geez, not that long. How long has it been live?
Couple weeks.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks.
Wow. What's cooking? Like,
what's cooking?
I don't need, it obviously didn't get hit like Cracker Barrel, and we don't need to get into social sentiment, but like, what is it unlocking? Even if that is purely like, we're having fun making assets again, or we've been able to do this, or somebody has said that, like a couple weeks is not that long. So I can't be like, what's the ROI?
Well, man, we all know marketing attribution is hard, and it's arguably not really worth our time because we can't control the journey, and we could have a whole separate podcast about how we think about demand gen and all these things. But here's what I will say. For what we can measure quantitatively, absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
You know,
already.
Performance scores are up, SEO, accessibility, all the pieces of like the infrastructure of the website itself. Then you got the metrics like, you know, more vanity metrics, right? It's huge spikes in traffic, longer session durations, lower bounce rates, really strong engagement. Like people are interacting with our website, which is where the brand really like comes to life and as like a first impression. That feels really good. I think more importantly for me is the feedback from customers, from partners, from prospects, from employees. First of all, it's overwhelmingly positive. It resonates. It feels new and different, but it's like there's a sense of pride in working with Contentstack. And that is now even stronger because we just come off as more enterprise class, as just cool and different. That's been like, as a marketer, like I couldn't ask for anything
that
better
gets your warm and
on
fuzzies
that
going,
front, right?
Yeah.
But then, you know, when I talk about attribution, I'm like, look, Q3, the summer months are really tough. You know, people are on vacation, like you're trying to book meetings, you're trying to grow. I mean, you guys are probably going through it too. Like you're trying to, you're trying to grow the business. Yeah. We launched our rebrand first week of September. Our September pipeline is up 200% year over year. 200%. Now, there's a lot that goes into that. We had our ContentCon event in Europe, but like 200% is not like a blip. That's a huge difference.
Yes.
I mean, people are finding us, and when they find us, I think their first impression is now really strong, and it's causing them to want to learn more. And so as the CMO, I can't ask for anything more than that.
Hell yeah. I love to hear that. I didn't know what you'd be able to say only 2 weeks live. I'm pumped for y'all, right? Because you know this just as well as I know it. This is a compounding game now. So if you're already seeing and feeling that now, that will, in theory, only get stronger the more that the brand has time to sit out there and really build upon itself. Because this game is obviously not just about a color or about a logo.
Totally.
Now that the brand lives up to its promise, people start to live more within the platform and the new innovation that's coming out. And then they tie that value back to the visual identity and all this, you know, it's like a perpetuating machine at that point.
Seeing it come to life at like actually at our ContentCon event was so cool. People just immediately noticed like, whoa, you guys like up levels.
You leveled up.
So 100%. And now next week we're at Shop Talk Fall, which is their fall event, and our booth is like so sick. So it just, it's really cool.
That's literally where I was going next. Let's talk about it a little bit without, I guess, giving it away. I was going to say, what's coming up next? Because I know for me, and I think probably for you too, sometimes these tangible expressions of a new identity tend to be really exciting. What you're excited about?
So we're thinking about how we show up in live experiences, because this is not just a digital rebrand, and there's more to engagement and marketing than just digital. So we want to wow people with in-person experiences for sure. So we're very excited about like third-party events, first-party events. We're excited about some of our sponsorships that we do for like, in-stadium type experiences, like really cool stuff we can do there. Another one is swag. We are a big swag company, and the applications, like do you remember that Rubik's Cube idea you guys had for us?
Yes.
Which is like kind of like the logo looks, we're like leaning in on that, and we're going to try and come up with a Rubik's Cube concept that brings the logo to life, like in and of itself. And then basically phase 2 of the web relaunch, which is, the design is there. Like we're all loving the dark mode and the way that it like pops. But, phase 1 was really just like a CMS platform. Phase 2 is when we really bring adaptive digital experiences and personalization and agentic to life. And that's coming really soon. So I'm really excited about that part, because that will even more so, any visitor to our site will not just experience our brand identity, but also be able to feel the power of Contentstack. And to me, that's like the best of both worlds. And so I'm really excited about that phase 2, which the team is working really hard on right now. Now that we have this new identity, how do we bring that to life across different channels, digital and physical, next year? And the team is already having a lot of fun with that ideation.
Yeah, you're spot on with where I was even thinking. I've talked a lot about design here. I want to be really fair to my team, and the strategy that goes into this, and the writing that goes into this. Coming out of with the brand concept, it's your move, right? So much kind of woven into that statement, in this idea of rotating elements and that as a concept, vision in motion. We've got all this like stretched text going
perspective
up
and
so you really got the verbal and the visual coming together, kind of like you mentioned. It was just kind of like everything kind of unlocked and really came together, which led to comments like this. Let me read this. You posted this technically a day ago, but when this goes live, it won't be a day. In the last week, we've demoed to one of the largest media companies and largest transportation companies in the world. Feedback: wow, you've blown us away. You made me realize I'm solving a much bigger problem than just replacing my CMS. And a bonus from an analyst who had said we probably wouldn't be able to surprise him, in quotes, I am humbled, which then you left the sign off of LFG, rocket ship. You've got a product that's obviously wowing people, and they're realizing like, wow, this is bigger and better than I actually thought it would be. Now there's an identity paired to help to kind of pull them in, like you said, right? For them to get a taste of like, no, this is a game changer. We couldn't be happier for you all.
Thanks, so proud of the work I really appreciate it. And the brand piece, it's given us swagger of like, I mean, it sounds simple, but even like the PowerPoint template, walking into a meeting with like, we're going to say words and we're going to show you stuff, but like, we look awesome.
We got our act together.
Like it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And people are texting me. They're like excited to build decks. Like that's so cool. It's like, I'm excited to build slides. Like no one's ever excited to build slides, but because the template is new and it's so sleek, like, so it makes a difference. And when you walk into a demo like that and it's like, boom, and then you go into the product and it's double boom, like it's so cool.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So we've covered a lot, and I'm going to force you to a single answer here.
Oh boy.
You are sitting down with the CMO or even a leader of an organization, and they were about to enter a rebrand, and you could just tell them one thing, either to do right, to look out for, whatever that one thing might be. What would you tell them?
I would say, especially if it's to a fellow CMO, do not go down this path unless you have the team in place that you trust to do the hard work. And I think that's important because in order for the project to truly be successful, the executive team kind of has to stay out of the weeds. I truly believe that. Like you have to,
You brought Jesus out. Wow.
Is this the rapture, Bill? Is this it?
Holy cow. I don't know what the hell just happened there. Holy shit. My light just went bonkers.
I just gave the most incredible answer, and like the skies opened up.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
like I think you can't be in the weeds. You gotta trust the team. And so if you can't do that if you don't have the right team in place. And so
Yeah.
for me, I felt like I could be involved early and often with vision and the really important decisions, and then trust my team to partner with you guys and follow this thing through to the end. And I was informed when I needed to be and consulted when I needed to be, but it was driven by the team. So you got to have that team in place, and they have to be experienced enough and trusted enough that you can let them run with it. So that would be the number one thing.
Well said. Your team was pro. It's worth mentioning, right? You're right. That makes a
Thanks.
difference. And when they're pro like yours, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
You have organizations that enter this and they think it is largely the hard work is on us, right? Because to be really clear, what Gurdeep is saying, like when he's talking about get the right team, he's not saying hire the right agency team. He's saying make sure your team on your side, this is their priority. They have the skill to at least enter a project. They don't have to have gone through 28 rebrands, but they have to have the skills, people skills, detail orientation, logistics, management stuff to actually engage in this project and to be able to get through it as a group. Not just
100%.
Not just you, sir, as the CMO trying to lead this entire effort.
And actually going back to like challenges, like one of the hardest parts is when there's basically a handoff of the brand kit from agency to team. And if the team hasn't been a driver all along, like that handoff can be really hard.
Yep.
Because now you got to take that and bring it to life through the web redesign, through other stuff. If it had just been like me running point and involved in, and then, oh, here, okay, team, here you go. They'd be like, what? Like, what do I do with this? This is crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it reinforces that the team makes all the difference.
Yep. Again, it's well said. You've got the experience to share those perspectives. Well, kudos to you. Congrats to the organization. It really was a pleasure working with you all. You all were pros, great perspectives, good energy in the meetings, even when it was challenging. So thanks for showing up in that way. And thanks for trusting us to be the partner.
Likewise, we really, really enjoyed the project. I think our company is extremely proud of the outcome. I'm humbled to be part of this conversation with you and you helping us, evangelize the work we've done together. If anyone who's listening wants to talk to me directly, they can reach out, LinkedIn or whatever. Happy to share more detail, but it's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks, Bill, to you and the team.
Now I get to watch from the sidelines now.
Yeah.
Wishing the best for you all and just can't wait to watch you grow. Growth is imminent.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Cheers.
Have a good weekend. I'll see you, Bill.